Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Infinite Potential of Being Human podcast. I have an amazing guest on today. I was gunning for you, Traver, when you came out of the darkness. I'm like, I'm gonna go straight to you because I want to hear so much of what you have experienced and the wisdom that you can share with us. But first, let's introduce you to everybody who's here. So just share a little bit about who you are, what your work is, and where you are now in your process.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me, Nicky. It's a pleasure. My name is Traver Boehm. I'm an author. I've written 3 books now, and my second book was a book for men. I'll say my first book was a book about divorce and heartbreak and how to use it, called Today I Rise. Then I wrote a book called UNcivilized, and you can probably see if you're watching the video behind me, some branding. And that book turned my life upside down, Nicky. That went from something I threw out in the world and thought, okay, cool, let me get to writing my third, and a whole business and a movement and a nonprofit and courses and workshops and all of this stuff came from it. It was a book written for men about a new paradigm of masculinity. And I wrote it at a time, I mean, masculinity is still a bit of a conundrum for folks, but it was in a real turmoil about 8 years ago. This was right in the middle of Me Too. And I kept hearing and seeing articles and watching news reports daily of men aren't okay, the boys aren't okay, men are in trouble, men are awful, masculinity is toxic. Even though we're not going to say that, we'll just call it toxic masculinity. And no one was saying what to do about it. And I went, this is weird. I get to the bottom of the article and there's no like 3-point bullet, this is what men can do. And so I just started putting content out in the world like, hey guys, what if we looked at this in a different way? As opposed to what feels like a very binary set of options for us. Of you can be very passive and new agey and sort of spiritually collapsed and not have much of a backbone, or you can be a wannabe Navy SEAL CEO crusher of everything in life and feel nothing. And the first guy feels everything but wasn't really doing much. And so it's like, what if there's a middle ground, and proposed a middle ground? And that's really what's been the work of my life for the last 8 years or so. And then this third book, which is what we'll probably talk about this subject, is about a 28-day dark retreat that I did in 2016. And all the stories that surround it and the experiences I had in that room, what I was living through at the time, because it was such a major transition. And I'll share with you one last thing before we move forward. That book came about because about 2 years ago, I got a phone call from my cousin, Ted. And my family situation is such that if somebody calls, something bad has happened. And I remember looking at the phone and be like, oh, I'm getting a phone call. This is not good. And sat down on the couch and he said, I need to tell you my older brother died last night. My other cousin, Chris. And I was like, holy shit, what happened? Did he have a heart attack? And he said, no, he took his own life.
Oof.
And I went, oh man, look at my arm. Oof. Right? And I didn't know what to do, Nicky, because Chris was the older brother I didn't have. I grew up with 2 older sisters and no brothers. And so this was the guy that I emulated. I wanted to be like. I moved to California in my 20s because he lived in California. I wanted to work in Hollywood because he worked in Hollywood. He had the wife and the 2 beautiful kids. I didn't. And so I wanted to be just like him. And he had killed himself. And I remember sitting at the breakfast table the next morning and I was like, what happened here? What do I do? I run a men's movement. I run a men's mental health business. I have therapists on staff. I do workshops all over the world. People have literally told me my writing and my work has saved their lives. And my own family member has taken his own. And I just got this a complete chills again, and download, or whatever we want to call it, thought of, I need to go back in the dark. And I need to go back in for longer. And I need to start writing the book that I've been sitting on for 8 years about the last experience. And so that brings us to today.
And that brought you into going in for this most recent round. Is that right?
That same day, I reached out to the people who had guided me through the last one and said, I need to come back. I've been called back. Can I do 49 days with you? And a dialogue started. And yeah, that was maybe, almost 2 years ago.
So for everybody listening, Traver has just come out of 49 days in the darkness. I have to tell you, when I heard how many days you were doing, I was really activated because it felt like such a terrifying feat to sit with no distraction but your own self and mind for 49 days. It made my mind go bonkers, just even contemplating what you were doing, which is, of course, why I wanted to have you on and have this conversation. Before we go into that, which of course is a huge piece, I feel like I want to ask a few questions. When you came up with Uncivilized Man, what was it that needed to be uncivilized? As in, what was it that needed to be undone in order to somehow honor or discover what it was that you wanted men to discover?
It's a great question. You know, at the time, Nicky, and this might illustrate it better, I wasn't interested in men's work. I wanted to do a year-long program called the Year to Live program, based off of the year that I had done the year before that had led me into the dark. And I remember working with a business coach, and he asked, like, well, what do you want to do? And the fourth thing on my list, I was like, and if I have any time left over, I think I may want to work with men. He's like, cool, we'll get to that. And I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw a men's gathering. Like, let me just get some guys together. I lived in this beautiful building. It had a great event space. So I put stuff out on social media. I put stuff out on Eventbrite. I made, threw it out there on Facebook. And I wanted to have a gathering of men. And that night, I walk downstairs, I prepped, I have notes, I have all this stuff ready. And I walk into the room, and there's one guy. And I remember thinking, I heard like another coach's voice in my head. It was like, one in a row, or you only need one. And so I talked to this guy. Like, I sat down with him. He had followed me on Instagram for a while. And for about 45 minutes, I just unloaded on him without breathing. I was like, and the masculine's the mountain, and we're stoic, and we take this, and we lead, and we're directional, and we're penetrative, and we're grounded, and blah, blah, blah. And then I think when I went, he's like, hold on, stop right there. I was like, what, am I going too fast? And he goes, I've just been a fan of yours since you were in fitness. I really came here to learn, how can I lose 25 pounds for this charity boxing match that I have coming up? And I was like, oh, now bless him, because he changed my life. Because long story short, he told me he was a cop. It was a charity boxing match for law enforcement for his fire department. And he couldn't lose the weight because he couldn't stop going to McDonald's. Now, this is really important. I remember like smacking my head. And he's like, I can't not go to McDonald's because they have the best damn coffee. And when I get the coffee, I get a breakfast burrito. And I was like, oh my God, I have a master's degree in Chinese medicine. I used to run a gym. I've trained Olympians and elite special forces. Don't go to McDonald's. Like, this is my sagely advice. I'm going to charge you 10 grand to tell you this. Stop going. Now, here's why it's beautiful. I went back upstairs after the meeting. I still have a picture I can send you with this guy. And I told my roommate at the time, a phenomenal guy named Adam Cobb. I was like, man, this guy he couldn't wanted to lose weight and wasted my time. And I can't believe I did that, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm all fired up. And then Adam and I spent the evening having a very real conversation. I remember he shifted it to, I think, his own father leaving, and something that had happened with a relationship of his in high school. And we had a very deep, connected conversation. And the next morning we got up. It was his idea, the 5 a.m. club, and he woke me up and was like, "Hey man, let's go work out." He had built a gym on the bottom of this building. And so this is why I'm telling you this story. We're about to walk out the door, and he goes, "Hey man, when was the last time you ate McDonald's?" And I was like, "I don't eat that shit, brother. That's civilian food." And he goes, "Tell me what you mean by civilian food." He actually started filming me. And I was like, "Take a look at this apartment. There's no television. There's no drugs. There's no alcohol. It's not loaded with women. We're two single guys. Last night, we had a very, very real conversation over the course of many hours that was quite deep and open. And now we're about to go get fucking savage on a weight pile. We're going to go kick the shit out of ourselves in a weight room. None of this feels like how the civilized world lives." That I felt at the time, Nicky, that you could get plugged into this machine of unconsciousness, of default programming, of poor health, of lack of inspiration, of lack of motivation, of no understanding of relationship, of no understanding of emotional intelligence. And you would get spit out in your mid 40s. I was 40 at the time, broke, heartbroken, depressed, overweight, diabetic, collapsed, divorced, addicted to a couple things. And that was like the proper outcome. Like that was 90 out of 100 men following the track we were shown would end up like that. So to me, that's what I remember saying to Adam, like none of this, how we live, is civilized. And I don't want anything to do with the civilized world. It felt like I had heard it from Wayne Dyer. I think this is a Jesus quote. Someone else corrected me. They're like, "That's not Wayne Dyer, that's Jesus." So that's a pretty big misquote of to be in this world but not of it. Right. So that was really what I was angling for. Like, men have as much of a relationship with your inner life as you do with your fantasy football.
Right.
As you do with your house and your cars. Like, understand your health, understand your shadow. Understand yourself, be conscious. That was what I was after. And also know how to lift and, fight and do cool manly shit.
But what I hear on a deeper level is, who are you beyond the conditioning and beyond the story? Who even are you?
Exactly.
Beyond all of that. And there needs to be a certain significant amount of unraveling in order to discover that. And the first layer was the TV and the McDonald's. But then when you go deeper, well, who even are you beyond all of that civilization or conditioning of the world?
Exactly. And if we stay on McDonald's for just a second, so if we stay on that for just a second, do you know how to nourish yourself? I came from a gym background. I came from a health background. I wasn't talking about food, although we need to talk to men about food. I was talking about relationship. I was talking about love. I was talking about your soul. Do you have any access to either your heart and your soul? Because that is why you are chasing all the shit you're chasing, killing yourself to try to achieve things that when you get them, you realize you don't really even want. That was what I was after, and that's why I called it uncivilized.
Right. Now, when you and I first met, we met through my partner, Nick. And we bonded. My experience is that we bonded I bonded with you. Yeah. You had me the moment that we started talking about Chinese medicine. And I was like, "Oh, I like this guy." But really, I'm bringing it up because we had already started to experience and look into this thing called life that was deeper than language and things and stories and conditioning, that there's this flow of life. There's this life force that moves through us that isn't separate from outside and in here. There's something that is intricately connected in the life force that moves through us and the life force that moves through our life.
Yeah.
And so what you're speaking about is like, wow, when we take away all the noise and the layers of who we think we are, what, you know, how, what kind of relationship can we even have with this flow of life,
Right. With life itself. And
with
how
life
many
itself?
men, if you asked them, if we went out today and we pulled 100 guys off the street and said, tell me about the depth of your relationship to life, how many of them would just look at us like we're crazy? Right? And if I asked how many men know the score of whatever football game there was this weekend in Denver, I bet you a lot of them would know. And that wouldn't be a crazy question. And to me, that's the answer to the football question is civilized. The answer to the life question is uncivilized.
Right. Do you think that the way that life force moves through a man is different to the way life force moves through a woman?
I'm unqualified to speak about you all, but from my experience with you all, I think it is very different. I remember someone years ago saying, imagine having all of your emotions at the same time, all the time, and having to navigate that. And I was like, oh, I have sometimes 3 in a day, and that's a big day. And by having emotions, I mean they went from 1 to 1.8 as opposed to on the dial. Not to say that I don't experience large emotion, but I do. I think life grounds men. And when we are grounded and open, we will feel secure with our relationship, with life, and it flowing through us. I don't know, I can't speak to how it affects women, but
No,
that's how I feel about men.
I'm curious. Of course, I've always been so curious at how it affects men because it really is, there really is a difference. You know, when I was studying Chinese medicine, that was such a profound moment for me when there really is a difference. Yes, we can be equal, and yes, we can have the possibilities for our life are the same. There's no limit to it, but there it is different. The energetics are different. And so when you speak about uncivilized, particularly for a man,
Yeah.
and this is before we even go into the darkness, what had you discovered about an uncivilized man?
First and foremost, Nikki, he was rooted. He was grounded. So he had the ability to go up and out, right? Yang energy is up and out. That is a lot of male energy, up and out into the world, penetrating the world, going upward. But I found so many civilized men had no root. They had no grounding. They couldn't take a breath and come back into their bodies. They were just living from the neck up. And it was all about the outside world, what they could build, what they could take, what they could get. But they didn't have the ability to drop in. They had a terror, civilized men, of their emotions. Because emotion does take us most often, unless it's sadness or grief, it will take us up and outward. And so these men didn't know how to anchor themselves. They didn't even understand that that was a thing. They didn't understand that sitting still for 3 minutes was possible. Not only possible, but then delicious. And then walking through the world with the ability to hold yourself, to be with yourself, to be self-contained until it is time to not be self-contained is the ultimate superpower. I don't care how big your 401k is or what your house, like how big your house is. So it was this reorganization and reorientation around what is strength. Can you be the most grounded man in the room? Can you be, I have this thing that I tell guys now, I want you to be more man than anyone's ever bumped into or encountered in their life. And like, well, what does that mean? I need bigger shoulders and guns and money? Like, no. When you can simply walk into a room grounded, sit grounded, stay grounded, no matter what's happening around you, to keep in relationship with yourself, where you haven't abandoned yourself, you haven't flown out the window, you're not up in your head. I have access to my belly at all times. That changes everything. It also allows a man to have a relationship with and I know we use these words a lot in the men's space, but with a deeper sense of purpose, with a deeper sense of mission, that takes his head away from marketing, that takes his head away from the trappings and the just titillation and just pure hedonistic pleasure, which there's a time for. But it actually roots him and orients him onto a path that becomes his own. Now you show me 50 men like that, and I can show them to you because I've worked with them. And they are a force, Nicky. They are just a force. I've had co-ed
Yes.
workshops where a dozen of the men had been through our processes. And I remember once on the second day, one of the women saying, I just have to name this. You guys are so damn calm and so grounded and so still. It's unsettling to me. But I love it. Like, I don't know what to do right now. This is everything I want in a man, and it's freaking me out because I don't have conscious contact or experience with it. That's what I say to men. And I hope I'm answering your question.
You are in so many deep layers because as a woman, and I'm sitting here, I'm so happy and grateful that all the women who are listening to this can hear you, because what I also feel as you're speaking is the loss that men have had to go through, the loss of themselves, the loss of this, the disconnect and the pain of having lost this to live in a civilized world. And it's important for us women to hear this, that this is the pain and the struggle that men have had to live through in themselves, which is different to what we women have had to
For
live
sure.
through. And it is such a loss to lose that connection to your power and to your centeredness, and to be lost in a world that's feeding you out here, and there's this internal battle that you don't even know is there, that something inside of you has been lost. And I think of your cousin,
Yeah.
the that pain and that battle, and it's good for us women to hear that is the pain that has been at the root for men. So why do you think you wanted to go back into the darkness? Is it because you saw that there was something that you had missed when your cousin took his life? What was it?
The simplest answer, Nicky, is I felt like I had no choice. I had choice, but I felt like the force that was bigger than I am, that is darkness, and it is so much bigger than I am, called me back. And that there was refinement that needed to happen. Like I needed not even just refinement. Like I needed to get back in the room. I needed to get back in the relationship. I had not seen the darkness, and other than, blindfolding myself for 30, 40 minutes at a time, even though I'll do that weekly, I needed a reemergence, and I needed to go in and cook. I feel now, I can say this now, that there were channels that were open to me. There was access that was shown to me. There was grief and anger and immaturity that was cleared out. There was trauma that was pre-verbal that was removed, that I say removed, but like ripped out of my body. I got called back. And yes, I have choice. I had choice. But we live the same way. Do we have choice? Sure. But if I didn't go back, I can't imagine living. I
Yeah.
can't imagine what it would take for me to have ignored that call.
Yeah.
Other
You
than
just can't do it
addiction or
another way.
chaos or I can't live that way. I had to go back. So it wasn't a
Yeah.
conscious, like, oh, let's try this, and I wonder what's on this. It was, this is what's happening. This is how long you're going in for. Get okay with it, or get as okay with it as you can. And when I did stop and breathe and meditate and be with myself, as terrifying as it was going in, there was also a very, very deep sense of going home, and a very deep sense of, okay, it's time to go to work. It's time to go do the real work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For everybody listening, what Traver did is he went into a darkness retreat. Is when, correct me if I'm wrong, Traver, is when you go into a room that is held on the outside, meaning you're being facilitated. You've got someone holding space for you, but you go into the room for a particular amount of days. You did 49 days, where once the door is shut, it is pitch black, 24/7. And you are in there for 49 days. No distractions. Obviously, you have no light to journal. It is just you and you.
Yes. The caveat to that, though, Nicky, is with longer stays like this, the group that I worked with, and the woman specifically, her name is Arpita, would come in every Friday to change the sheets, wipe down the room, check and see if I'd lost anything, and very lovingly do a quick mental health check, which just started with, "So how you doing?" And she's a very wise and a very attuned and a very astute woman, and we'd take it from there. So I would have a
And
human
when
in
she
there for
came
about
in,
20 minutes.
would you have to put a blindfold on when she came
Yes.
in?
She would only come at night after the sun had gone down so that light wouldn't come in the room, and she would wear a headlamp and I would be completely blindfolded.
Okay, okay. Now, just for everybody listening, I think everybody can get a sense of how challenging such a
Yeah.
such a ceremony is. You know, I remember my very first trip to the Amazon, and before the shaman would even let me drink any ayahuasca, I had to sit in silence, in solitude for 7 days on my bed. And I couldn't leave the bed for 7 days, and I couldn't journal, and I couldn't do anything other than just sit there. Now, I wasn't in the dark, but that was one of the hardest 7 days of my life. I literally felt like my mind was going insane. I was going insane in moments. So for everyone listening, take away even the light. You are literally left with your internal world. That's all that exists. Right. Okay. So let's talk about it. Whatever you can talk about. Now, I know when you came out, I said to Nick, I got to talk to Traver. I have to have this conversation with you, because the human mind is, there is no reality without this human mind. So we don't even realize that what we're living in most of the time is whatever the mind has projected. So when you take away everything and that's all you're left with, and who you are beyond that, wow, I wanted to hear this. So begin, like, what was it like as you entered?
Nicky, I spent a day, this is all at an ashram or at a facility. So I just want to say that too. I was in Tuscany, just outside of Tuscany, so way up in the Italian hills. And I arrived a day early to just be on the land and see the facility itself and unpack into the room. And I can say to you that very much like plant medicine or ayahuasca, the process starts way before. I had felt 6 months prior, I would say to people, my stomach's a mess. The room already has a hold of me. Or the dark's already initiating me. It's already starting to work on me. My dreams were intense. I couldn't sleep a lot. And it wasn't just anxiety. It was like there's something bigger that now has a hold of me. And yet, look at my arm. Crazy. Chills everywhere. When I got there, it actually calmed me for a bit. Because I was like, okay, it's not pre-fight. I'm not preparing. It's not camp. It's not getting ready to get in the ring. I'm looking at the ring. It's here. Now it's just time to go in there and see what happens. And that is far more comfortable for me than the preparation phase or the lead-up phase. And so for a day, I just did yoga and meditated with them and hung out with them and, tried to stay calm. I unpacked into the room. Arpita took me down, gave me a little tour. It was like a little studio, so very small. And I just tried to make peace with myself, which I had been working on for months prior. People was like, how do you prep for this? Do you meditate multiple hours a day? Do you blindfold yourself and try to walk around? And I'd say, no, I just try to get right with the world. And just try to say to myself over and over and over, what will be, will be. And this is a long one. This is a big one. This is hard as hell.
8 weeks.
Seven
Weeks, right?
7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Yeah. And I did get a little anxious. I'll tell you, I was chatting with Arpita the night before I went in, and then you go in at night. And I was saying, talk me through, like, have people like walked out of there? Have people tapped? I knew she was just telling me kind of like war stories of having a dark room for 14 years of, once they went in and someone had opened the door and just left, like gone, they couldn't find this person. And so she's telling me like stories like that and said, a number of people, seasoned meditators, people who have done years and years of training will tap out early, especially on the longer stays because of the weight of the length of time, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I just tried to be with myself. And I think, I used to fight professionally, and it was very similar to the day of a fight. It's just like, let's just try to stay calm. Let's not run through worst case scenarios. Let's not fantasize about best case scenarios. Let's just try to stay present. And so I stared out at the valley for a long time. I walked around. I helped with some like household chores. And then it was time. And Arpita and I went down to the room. It's like a 2-minute walk. I had asked if she would read a prayer. I think Michael Gay. Do you know Michael Gay? Mm-hmm. Michael had emailed me a prayer and saying, like, this is my prayer for you. And we went in and she lit a candle and read the prayer for me. And then she left. She said, whenever you're ready, blow the candle out. And so it begins. And Nicky, I would love to tell you that I was just like super zen and was like, namaste, now it is time. Instead, I was like, almost blow it up. Nope, not blowing it out yet. I'm gonna Nope. Is there anything else I want to check?
What I wanted to ask you.
Do I know where my little almond collection is? Do I know where my toothbrush is? Like, let's walk to the bathroom and back and figure out where that is. Is there extra toilet paper? Do I know where my shirt? And then
that's what I wanted to ask you, because the moment before we hit the edge, there's a kind of like an attack of control, right? It's like the most insane that we could be is the moment just before we jump off the cliff.
100%. So I think I like reverted to like a 14-year-old, and then took a breath and was like, you know what? There is no time to begin. It's begun. And I blew the candle out. I sat on the bed. It took about 30 minutes before I started crying. And it was just a momentary blip of actual terror. Where I remember thinking like, I'm so scared. I'm so scared right now. It hadn't started. I hadn't gone through the first night. I didn't have a rhythm or a routine. Nothing acute had happened. I was just so scared. And I have no bones about admitting that. It dissipated quickly. But it was a very visceral, real, like, I know what I've gotten myself into. I have no idea what I've gotten myself into. I just know I've gotten myself into it. And so it began.
Right. So the first waves of lessons, what were they?
My father had died less than a year before, and I brought his ashes in with me, like a little ceramic cup of them. I wanted him in there with me. And we were not earthly close, but we were deeply connected, if that makes sense. We'd talk maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. But he was the male in my family. Like, he was the one I was closest to. And if you had asked me prior to going in, have you made peace with his death? Have you grieved? I would look you right in the eye and say, yeah, I've done it. I'm good. I'm, I'm clear on that. And that knocked me over like a freight train. Just how much grief there still was, and how deep it went, and how much, not just that I missed him, but I missed a life without a relationship with him. You know, it had been since I was probably 16, 17, since we had really spent quality time on any significant level. And I'm 49 years old. And I can escape that, or I could like shape shift around that in my day-to-day life, but I could not. And that came quick, maybe 4 or 5 days in. And it just kicked the shit out of me. And it would come, Nicky, and over and over and over and over again. And I don't know if we want to jump to this now, but since it's on that theme, one of the days, so we can jump forward, and then I'm happy to come back to earlier on. It was maybe day 35, 36, and I was lying in the bed one morning, and this is what would happen. So I hope people understand. I imagine you understand that there's long periods of boredom, of just like, okay, cool, I've meditated, I've done 200 push-ups, I've eaten, I've brushed my teeth. I would walk up and down the length of the room. It was 5 steps each direction. I would touch the wall so I would know, so I wouldn't wander off and stub my toe. I would do that hundreds and hundreds of times a day to try to get steps in. But yet there were periods where there was just nothing to do. And this was one of those periods, probably it was maybe 6, 7 in the morning. I could kind of tell from the bird sounds. I was waiting for breakfast. Breakfast would come at 10 a.m. And I was just lying there and was like, waiting, waiting, waiting. And boom, I just got slammed by grief. And it was, we had never had a funeral for my father. Part of his last request was do nothing. No gathering, no ceremony, no wake, no nothing. And I had held my father's hand as he died in the hospital room. And then 2 hours later, I was on a plane back to Denver and back to work a day later. And that was the situation. And so I had this like, oh my God, how did this happen? How have we not honored you? How did you ask us to not honor you? I don't care what was going on. Like, how did we not do this? And I remember thinking, I'm going to have a funeral for you in here, even if I'm alone. And then I had this thought, bro, you grieve by yourself all the time. You can't do that. You can't do that. And so God bless her, that Friday when our pizza came in, I said, day 47 is the 1-year anniversary of my father's death. We never had a funeral. Would you mind coming in? Can we break protocol here? Would you mind coming in and lighting a candle? I'll stay blindfolded. And I would like to give the talk that I would have given to a group of people. I would like to give it to you in the darkness. Will you be there for me for that? And bless her soul, she said yes. And I said, I also have a song. His favorite song has come to me over and over in here. Can you bring your phone in and play that song for him? And we did. And it was one of the most impactful experiences of my life, to sit on a floor blindfolded. I kept having to like lift the thing to let tears run out, sobbing as this woman put her hand on my shoulder. And I got to give a eulogy for my father in a pitch black room in Tuscany. So yeah, the first lesson, and it was a very consistent lesson, was grief.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I hear in that is well, so many things, but I hear that why is it that the way that we live our life, we live it in a way where we're not really experiencing the depth of the value of these human beings
Hmm.
in our life whilst we're living what we call living,
Yeah.
the protection of our heart, the depth of the longing and the love that sits underneath the loss.
Mm.
And of course, it's our heart. I've been really tapping into this. We walk around with this beating muscle in our chest all day long, and how little do we really feel it and connect to it. And what I hear is that first lesson was the wave of feeling the depth of what of love. You grieve because you loved so deeply, but you could you feel that in your life, in the living of your life with him?
No, and I could feel it when he passed, but just to a degree. You know, I have a business to run. I had a partnership. I had a dog to take care of. I have an oil that change that needs to happen and real life. And there was no, and I don't want to blame anyone, but the way I have set my life up and my life is organized, that there's really not space for that. And sometimes grief would come and take my life over and go, cool, I'm going to make space for you right now. You're going to go lie on the floor and cry. And then the phone rings and it's time to get back to work, or then there's stuff that we have to do. And removing all of that and everything and everything and everything just gave me access to that well of grief and so much that was around it and surrounding it. It was quite profound.
As a man, and now that you're out, and I'm sure you're still very much in integration, which may last for years, how impactful was allowing yourself to feel the depth of love and connection and longing and pain that you had with your father as a man? How impactful can you see that being in your life now today?
It's so subtly profound, Nikki. I slowed down significantly in every facet of my life. And I don't know, I can't say that's a direct correlation of, oh, the pain I had, the grief I carried made me manic. But the sprint that was so deep in my system, everywhere I go, I have to go fast. Every time I drive, I have to go fast. A quiet morning is a waste of time. Even though I'm a consistent meditator, that was still not performative, but it was to an end goal. And so I can say, since coming out, just not having that rampant speed everywhere has been profound. And I can say perhaps one more piece, even though it may open up another door, the access to my own depth, to access to my own body, to my own truth, to my own soul, I think must have been not blocked, but significantly impinged by that grief, especially the grief of the loss of a father as a man,
Yes.
right? That he was my hero. He and my cousin, I had to sit with both. I've lost both of the men of my life in a 2-year period.
Yes.
Who am I as a man now? And am I okay? This is an odd thing to think, but I imagine many men listening, and perhaps women as well. I'm the next male that will go. There are no men above me in my family line. That it's me. And so I had a relationship with mortality. I had a relationship with death. But the depth of it has been increased immensely. And the awareness of it since coming out, I will tell you, it's been very, very challenging to integrate since coming out. I care about so many things, Nikki. I care about my business. I care about the people who work for me. I care about my audience. I care about my life. And I don't give a flying fuck about any of it
Yeah.
on some level. And I hope people listening go, I still love you and care about you.
Yeah.
And yet it is this crazy duality of walking through the world knowing none of this means a damn thing.
Yeah.
And yet I still love you. I still care. And having that duality has been both beautiful and very challenging to navigate.
I mean, what I hear is that you actually lost your father way before he left this earth. And part of the grief was the loss of his physical presence in your life, but also how many years of your life you had been disconnected.
Yeah.
And the amount of energy that we use unconsciously as human beings to mask that, to resist that, to just try and live and cope with being ourselves with that loss in our heart. Because the greatest love of our lives is our parents when we're children, when we come into existence. And for a man, the connection with father is obviously pivotal.
Yeah. If I could say too, to other men listening, perhaps, there was so much grief around a lack of guidance.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I did my whole 20s and 30s and even my 40s without having the ability to say, hey, you've been here before. What do you think I should do? And what would my life, how different might it have been? I don't want to go down a fantasy wormhole, but just how different might it have been knowing that there was mentorship, an elder, a guide, someone to usher me through these various stages of manhood, and how difficult and sad, if I'm honest, it was to have to navigate that all on my own, especially even more oddly with him still alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. The loneliness of even having him still alive, but still experiencing that loss and that disconnection. And I think so many men will identify, us human beings, we identify, I feel that way about my father too. But for a man without that guardianship, when I think about the kind of guardianship that I'm now having to take my 12-year-old daughter through, I'm quite literally teaching her how to be a conscious, present woman now
Right.
at 12. And that's not through what I'm doing, that's through who I'm being, that I'm letting her feel
Yeah.
and experience the presence of. And of course, that's kind of what we've all longed for.
For sure.
And so with the grief is also experiencing the pain of the longing. Do we even let ourselves feel that longing? The longing for connection, the longing for love, the longing to be seen and known and honored, that sits so deeply at the root of so many of us. So I'm not surprised you've slowed down, because whatever was resisting all of that is probably just gone released.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that was the beginning, that was the doorway. Where did that lead you? Before you answer, when you look back on the whole thing, now that you have hindsight, was there like a journey?
Nicky, put myself through 7 intentions. And that, at first, I think was a bit of a protection mechanism of, I want to have something to think about. And I'll give myself a tiny bit of structure given the length of time.
Yeah.
When I did the first one, the 28 days, there was perhaps more of an arc. And there was 2 or 3 days of just sheer boredom. And boredom's not the right term. Of nothing acute happening emotionally. There was still stuff to do. There was still stuff to think. There was still, I wrote a book in there. I designed a talk in there. I did a lot of things in my mind. I wrote a ton. I have said this to a number of people. My high school swim coach, this will make sense. When I graduated, was like, do you know that most of the planet can't swim? And I was like, nah, that's impossible. I've been in a pool for, 4 hours a day since I was 6. Everybody can swim. And so I've shared this with a number of people who go, "Oh, I don't think I can write without a computer." And I went, "Oh, I can." And so I've written hundreds of pages in there, short stories, fiction stories, articles, etc. So I would spend a lot of time actually writing in my brain and could go back to the story later, could go back to the article later. But it seemed like every 3 or 4 days, the hammer of God came down and went, "Okay, I'll put the mental computer away and I will go curl up in the corner and sob or scream or yell or navigate whatever it is that's taken me over." So it wasn't a bell curve. I thought perhaps it would be. And it actually, I remember getting to day 42 and thinking like, okay, some big stuff's come up and I'm out of the woods because it's week seven's coming. Like I got like 7 more days and I could kind of feel the outside world. Arpita had the, "Hey, this is what's going to happen next week with me talk. Hey, this is what we want you to make sure of when you do come out talk." So I felt like I was starting to go out. And that was by far exponentially the hardest day of my life. And exponentially harder than any other day in any of the retreats I've done, out of 77 days. Day 42 in that room was awful. There are pieces of it I will share and pieces of it that I won't. But there's just more grief, Nicky, and there was terror, like actual terror. I'm not sure how to take your question because it's just such a vast space. But
Was the
I would,
terror about facing the world again, or was it a terror of being half in, half out?
my ex-partner and I had gotten 2 years ago or so, I was in a really bad ATV accident in Costa Rica. And I was driving, she was on the back. And we flipped the ATV. I hit a series of potholes driving on a really bad road. Boom, we both get thrown from the thing. And I remember tumbling and thinking, I have to get back to her. I have to see if she's okay. There's like a primal animal drive. No matter what is wrong with me or how hurt I am right now, I have to get to her. And it probably took me a second and a half to get to her physically. And my head was cut open. And so when I got to her, I just started seeing blood on her. And quickly realized she's okay, but she's hurt. And that second and a half, I thought I may have killed her. And I had to relive that second and a half one day for hours and hours and hours in a row, just like screaming into the dark for it to fucking stop. And I didn't know why it wouldn't let me let it go. That was terror because I just couldn't. I viscerally felt the terror that I didn't allow myself to feel in that moment, because in that moment I had adrenaline and I needed to move and I needed to get to her.
Yeah.
But it was so deeply buried in my body and in my being that I had panic attacks for a year and a half after. If I heard a loud car sound or a loud, even God forbid, hear like a motorcycle or an ATV, I would freeze and just like literally be frozen and have to take breaths and get myself calm. And that morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I remember thinking, well, shit, this hasn't really come up yet. It had come up a little bit, and I dealt with some of it, but then I don't know what happened that morning. I just, in a moment, I don't know if there wasn't a sound. It was like 4 a.m. Woof, woof, woof. I just relived that second and a half. And I remember thinking, if I've killed her, this is heavy for people, just so you know, I will have to kill myself because I cannot live knowing, as a man who's dedicated my life to like protecting people, to helping people, I was a lifeguard, I was a bodyguard, like these were my professions. I have betrayed God if I've killed this woman. Like I've betrayed everything in my life. And so I think even some of that, like knowing if she's not okay, I'm not okay. And that's a lot for a 1.5 second human experience.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a piece of that morning. And then and I was like, I remember 3 hours into it, Nikki, or however many hours, I was just like pouring sweat, just like literally had to take my clothes off because I was dripping sweat and shaking uncontrollably. And coming out of that process and thinking like, whew, thank God that's it for the day. And I don't want to get into the specifics, or I won't go into the specifics of what came next. But within an hour, I was right back in a whole nother process that was even more intense than that one. And I will share this with you because I think it's fascinating that at some point I was yelling out for Arpita. This is in the middle of the night and no one can hear me. This is like I could scream, I could bang on the walls. The house is, 50 yards away. I couldn't hear anything except for birds right outside my door. And I was just saying, like, if anybody can hear me, come get me out of here, right? I need help. I don't ever ask for help. I was like begging God, the dark, Arpita, anybody, like someone come get me out of here. And nobody came. Which was, I got myself reorganized or reoriented at some point. And a couple hours later, she did come to deliver breakfast. And for people to know, there's like a double door system. So like at no point were we in contact when food was delivered. It would be like put in one mailbox with an opening, and I had another opening that when it was closed, etc. So I remember like fighting with myself of like, ask for her to come in and just check on you. Like just it's okay. You can do that. You're allowed to do that. That's why she's here. It's okay. And I literally had my face up against the door as the food was delivered, and I heard her side of the door shut, and I was like telling myself, like, you got to say something. You got to say something. You got to say something. Like, you're not okay. And telling myself, if she says something, I'll take that as the opening. But I can't ask. I can't ask. And I remember hearing the door shut for the food, Nikki. And normally it's like food shut, dunk, 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 footsteps away. And this time the door shut and it was silence. And I was literally like pressed up against the door and saying like, Arpita, please ask if I'm okay. Like, please ask. Someone fucking say something. And there was nothing. And this was a Tuesday. And so she goes about her business and yada, yada. She comes in every Friday to check on me, check on the room, etc. And she comes in that Friday, and she's got this crazy Armenian, Bulgarian, semi-Russian, Italian accent. So she'll just say like, "Hello, darling. How are you doing?" Right? This is 3 days later, and I'm still a bit of a mess at this point. And I was like, you know what, Arpita, the room kicked the shit out of me this week. Like, I lost the fight. I fought for 6 weeks and I was okay a lot, and I took some beatings, but like this week I just lost. And she goes, tell me about it. And I said, on Tuesday, I'm not going to go into it, but I hit rock bottom and I found out what was underneath rock bottom. And she said, Tuesday night, huh? I said, yeah, Tuesday night. She's like, I know. I woke up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and I woke my husband up and I said, like, he's not okay in there. I need to go get him out. And her husband was like, you know the rules. Like, he has to leave. If he hasn't left, he's okay. And she said she stood in the doorway dressed and was like, I have to go. I have to go get him. I have to go get him. He's not okay. And he convinced her to come back to bed and wait and see. And so she said, I delivered your food that morning and I stood there waiting to see if you would say anything. And we were having this like emotional standoff of both knowing that I was not within a country mile of okay, but someone had to make the opening and neither of us did.
Why do you think you didn't open? Why did you not ask for what you wanted?
I'll be very honest with you. She had told me the night before going in, I was like, have you ever pulled anybody out? And she's like, yeah, plenty of times. I've gone in, done the check, and basically explained to people, you're coming out now. And I remember thinking, if she comes in and sees me like this, she's going to make me leave. I don't know if she would have or not. She and I know each other well. We've known each other for a decade. I did 28 days with her. She knows I can handle shit. Honestly, Nikki, I remember thinking, if I do that and she makes me leave, I'm a failure. And it is a tough, like, I actually wish that I had just to rewrite that story, or to say that like my own mental and emotional well-being is more important than failing at this task. But I couldn't in that moment. Yeah. It is my one regret, if you ask me, because I think it would have been so good for me to have had to ask for help as a human, instead of having one more repetition of going, well, we lived through it. There's some scars, but man, someone was there to help you and they wanted to help and you didn't let them. And I don't know when that opportunity will present itself again.
Wow. I mean, I just want to thank you for sharing so honestly and deeply. I feel it every inch of what you're speaking of. And
Yeah.
even that moment of regret, I think so many of us can identify with that pain of wanting something so deeply, but we just are so tough on ourselves that we just can't. Part of me just kind of wants to sit and let this in because it's so honest. I think what blows my mind, even though it is my work and I teach it, but when I hear you speak about it, it blows my mind how real the past is right here in the present. We don't need to take psychedelics. We don't need anything. It's here right now. And if we just take away all the distractions, the mind is so powerful, the body mind, that you relived every single unresolved inch of what was in your memory bank. And God knows how much that was impacting your energy and your behavior and your physical body language and the way you hold yourself and the way you see yourself. And it's like just in those few hours of time, every single inch of it was here in the present. And I think it's so important for everybody who's listening to hear that. We keep thinking that the past is back there, and if we keep moving this way, we'll somehow get away with it. But we're bringing it with us everywhere we go, whatever is just sitting dormant. And the courage it takes to take away everything distracting so that you can really heal, because that's healing. It feels like a death. Well, it was a form of a death.
For sure. But it felt like my basement got cleaned out, you
Yeah.
know? And I'd been living on the top floor of the house for a long time and had been terrified, and I tried to get to that stuff, to the depth of the things that I went through in that room. I've done psychedelics. I've been to therapy. I'm in therapy.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
done men's workshops. I've done work. It took 6 weeks alone in the dark for it to really go, okay, let's unlock this door and open it.
Right. Which also shows how much protection there is there, for all of us. Like, we don't even realize the layers and the layers and the layers of protection that there is there that just keeps us functioning, and but once it's cleared out, it's like, I mean, you tell me, like, did you feel different when it was no longer sitting dormant in your body, in your cells?
I don't feel like I have to sprint through the rest of my life. And I can sit still, and I'm not manic. And things that I cared about, I don't really care about anymore. And I say that positively.
Yeah.
It reorganized the course that I'm on. And reoriented, sorry, let me say that. It reoriented the course that I'm on, that I don't think would have been possible had I still been tussling with those experiences under the surface.
Yeah. I mean, you feel different to me sitting with you now. You feel different. You feel more you than ever before, but you feel so present, like tension has left you, tightness has left you. There's a presence to you now, which I don't think we realize is not possible when there's something sitting, looping inside our system, creating all the contraction. I want to talk about boredom. I think it's a really important piece. You brought it up a few times.
Sure.
I'm always shocked at how difficult people find boredom. It's almost intolerable. My children go to a walled-off school where it's a very different kind of education. And when I first sent them there, it was very different to how I was brought up. Boredom was a very significant piece of the process, meaning whenever my children got bored, I would immediately want to try and fill their boredom, give them something, play with them, entertain them, put the TV on. But the teachers would teach me, no, when they're bored, let them get even more bored. Don't go in and solve it. And it was extraordinary for me to witness that when I stayed out of the way, eventually the boredom would become some kind of creative inspiration. So you brought it up. Tell us about boredom, because boy, I'm sure you faced it many times.
There were these witching hours, Nicky. I think I was waking up around 3:30 in the morning. And I judged that essentially by how long does it take for the first birds to chirp. I would ask our pizza, like, hey, what time is sunrise here? And she'd say it's about 5:30-ish. And so I could kind of gauge that I've been awake for 3 hours and I hear the birds, give or take, I don't have a clock in there. So as soon as I woke up, I made the deal with myself. I would immediately meditate. And I would do 3 rounds of meditation, probably around 30 minutes each. I would gauge it by like my foot falling asleep. And I kind of have a know after decades of meditation what time is. And so I would do that. I would have a burst of energy. I would often think and try to work through a problem. What do I want to do with my business? Is there another book I want to write? What do I want to do about this part of my life, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd work through that for maybe 2 hours. And then there would be this time period between that and breakfast. As I said, breakfast came at 10 a.m., dinner came at 4 p.m. So from 4 p.m. to 10 a.m., I'm not eating, with the exception of I brought 2 bags of nuts and some bars of chocolate in there, which I had to ration for 7 weeks. So I wasn't just like a free for all of nuts and chocolate, which would have been awesome. So for those couple hours, maybe 2 hours before breakfast, I'd already worked through stuff. I've already meditated. I'm not sure I really want to work out. So I just would wait. And that would be the like, oh man, and again, like not knowing the time, it could be any moment. So food could come, the answer could come, the day could start. I would say like the day doesn't start until breakfast comes. And so it was this very unique period of boredom and anticipation. Now, I could very easily ask a single question of myself, and woof, 2 hours would fly by. And as I said, I broke the experience into 7 different, essentially, subjects of home and safety, sex and creativity, money and power, love and connection, voice, choice, and truth. I think it was God and death, and rebirth, and something else. And so if I was like, oh, it's week 2, I'm kind of bored. Let's think about, and I would just ask myself sort of coaching questions. Are there parts of my relationship with sex and creativity that aren't serving me in the highest way? And that sounds like really coachy and vanilla. Or be like, is there anything about my life that I'm not expressing fully? And I literally wait and could go right into some other mental process. Or this was a beauty. If I was having kind of surface level conversations with myself, the same argument with the same people, working on like a business calendar, I could say to the dark, I would like to go deeper than this. I would like to go deeper than my 2026 business calendar. Can we stop organizing that? Like I don't need to lock myself in a pitch black room for 7 weeks to like, do I do that workshop that weekend? Do I keep that workshop? And as an entrepreneur, that stuff's always there. So numerous times I would say like, hey, can I go deeper than this? And then it would be crazy how fast, boom, something would come in. An image from 20 years ago, a mental movie clip, a piece of a song. And that would send me into a 2-hour process. That would send me down a rabbit hole of whatever. Or as I don't know if I've told you this part, I had a whiteboard, a mental whiteboard in there with me. So I would lean my back up against the wall that had the walkway, like the 5 steps that I would walk back and forth, and just lean back and cross my arms. And I didn't need to close my eyes, and like a whiteboard would appear. And it had this image that I spent 7 weeks drawing of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to be. And it was kind of like an internal map. And so if I got bored, I could just go lean up against the wall and look up at it and be like, oh yeah, that section. Let's play with that section today. Or let's just see, is there anything that wants to come out of that wants to speak to me? And boom, stuff would come out. So I think I'm echoing something that you've said throughout this conversation, is that there's access to endless richness and endless creativity and endless insight. It's just an hour of boredom away. And if you aren't willing to sit in that hour of boredom first, because I'll tell you, I'd also go, I would love to go deeper than my 2026 calendar and just hear crickets or nothing. And nothing. I'd be like, knock, knock, knock. Hey, I don't know if anybody heard me. I would love to go deeper.
Hello.
Well, like a random sexual fantasy. Can you throw one of those at me? Or like a 7-course meal? Can I fantasize about that? What do you know? Can I own a Bugatti for an hour and like drive around in here? It's like, no, you'll just sit here. You'll just sit here. And there was
Wow.
value in not getting what I wanted. There was value in
Yeah.
going, okay, I surrender to the fact that the next hour, 2, 3, 4, 5 are going to be uninspiring.
Yeah.
This is the price of the next emotional process. That's what I would tell myself. It's not all fireworks and high peak experiences. This is as valuable as those are. Like the tempering of my soul, the waiting, the forging of relentlessness, the forging of just being able to sit, of resilience. I felt that, of like my resilience muscle is getting tightened and strengthened right now. This is training for something that I don't know what it is yet. Okay, I'll sit here, I'll meditate again, I'll do planks. I'll just be in the present moment. I'll listen to the birds. I'll listen to as far as I can hear and see if I can pick up something walking outside, like anything like that.
Yeah.
And for people listening, it's 7 effing weeks. If you got locked in a room for a day having to do that, it runs out, it like loses its sparkle pretty quick.
Yeah.
But then the monotony, Nicky, was both oppressive and beautiful. There's the whole experience. I don't want to blabber, but like the whole experience was a duality. Everything was a duality. Like, oh my God, I have access to myself. I'm with myself in the most beautiful, intimate ways. And okay, 37 days, 6 hours, and 14 minutes approximately till we get the F out of here and get to go dive in the ocean or bite a hamburger or make a phone call or hug somebody. So it was constantly a tussle of,
Yeah.
there's such precious sacred time. And
Yeah.
life's right outside that door. Life is 6 inches away. All of life, the whole totality of life is right there. And I'm here by choice. I can leave anytime. Right? And I don't feel like I have a choice to be here because I feel like there's something bigger at work working on me. And all the things.
I just think it's such a fundamentally, such an important lesson, because how many times a day do we, how many of us are using our life just because we can't bear to be bored? We can't bear just to be in the mundane everydayness, and how much depth and gold there is on the when we are able to be with it. I recently had an experience, I don't think you would mind me sharing this, where, every relationship that I've had before the one I'm in now has always had a lot of drama and problems and struggle and conflict. And I've spent years, why can't he have see me or hear me, and all this stuff that really occupied my time. And now I'm like, I'm really, really happy, and there's no problems, and we get on really well, and we really like each other, and it's really easy. And I was like, we came out of the honeymoon phase, and I was like, I'm fucking bored.
Yeah.
Now it's just, I spent months and years wishing for this, and now we have every day together, and there's no problems and nothing to complain about. And I'm bored.
Yeah.
Wow. How uncomfortable it was just to be with this boredom. And I realized after a while, the mind tells you at first, or me, that something is missing. And then it took me a while to stop fighting and realize, oh no, nothing is missing. This is just what it feels like to be present in your life when all the drama stops.
Right.
And you can just be in the nothing. And it was so interesting to me how the first reaction to boredom is resistance. Where's all the hype? Where's all the... But actually the beauty and the mundaneness that we don't even let ourselves really be present to, the mundaneness of sitting and just looking at a tree or looking at the wall. and just being there. It's like, wow, how much fight we all have to go through just to even allow ourselves to do that and to find peace in it.
Right. And then when there's chaos, wish there was no chaos.
Exactly.
We got to figure this out and get back to that boredom that I hate so much.
We wished for this boredom when there was all the drama.
Yeah.
I remember I had a client once who came out of a program, and the anxiety that she'd struggled with her whole life had gone. And she said, Nicky, I'm bored. And I'm like, wow, you've spent your whole life trying to solve the problem of your anxiety, and now it's gone. Her life felt boring.
Yeah.
And okay, so now what's deeper? Can I go deeper?
Yeah.
What's deeper beneath this boredom?
Yeah.
Rather than a distraction.
Yeah. I hope people ask themselves that question. What's deeper than this? It was such a beautiful question. And a profound question when it was answered. And it may be answered for, again, just a fraction of a second. And go, oh, that's what I'm sitting with that I don't even know is running the program right now.
Right. So, God, I just feel like I could sit with you for hours. I'm sure you have other things to do. What else was a really, really big moment for you that you would want to share with us, other than the whole thing?
Yeah, I'll share this piece with you, Nicky, and with your audience, because I think it's very important. I think it was day 35. I was just in a low place, and a pretty low place. I had this fantasy that the second half would be easier and faster and smoother than the first half, because it's the down slope, right? Like I'm on the way out, and was very disillusioned and became sober very quickly to the idea that every single day is as long as the day before. It will not change. And so 35 days in, I am worn out. This has taken effort upon effort to get up and work out every day, to get out of bed and meditate, to go take a shower. Like everything in that room was hard. Everything. There was no pep talk. There was no touch. There was no, you got this. Like I'm having a low day. Call my buddy. Like, hey man, you can do it. Nope, nothing. It was all self-generated. So at that point, I was just, that day I remember just, it was that witching hour. It was probably 5 or 6 in the morning. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not leaving, because that's quitting. I'm not doing that. And I'll be very blunt, because I know it has happened, because I was warned it would happen. I wasn't going to hang myself either. A lot of people don't make it out of these rooms, or a fair number of people haven't. So I remember saying to the room, like, guess what, bro? Like, I'm not going to kill myself, and I'm not leaving. But I don't know what to do to make it to day 49 here. I've still got 2 full weeks. A lot of people do this retreat, Nicky, as a 5-dayer. That's their complete experience is 5 days. And I'm not shitting on that. I'm not minimizing that at all. I still had to do 3 people's whole experience left. And I've already done it 7 times. So that day, it was just like, I was literally asking, like, what is required of me? Help me. Someone tell me what's going to be. And I was lying there on the bed. And I remember hearing, in order to get to the end and get out, it will require a heroic effort. Because what you have undertaken is a Herculean task. Now, I don't know how many people, I don't know if you know this, it's like American culture, but Hercules is there was like I think it was an Eddie Murphy movie, and there was like this little chubby kid, and he'd be like, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. People listening may know the movie I'm talking about. And it's like, so it's in the culture, and I was like, Herculean? And so for a second, my mind was like, Hercules, Hercules. And then I tried to figure out, like, what the hell are you talking about? and went, okay, a heroic effort, because what you've undertaken is a sacred task. You have to be able to dip into a motivation or an energy source or a willpower that goes beyond your humanity. I'm stubborn. I'm willful. I've fought in a cage and opened my own businesses and have written books. Like, you know what it takes to run your own business. You have to be a willful person. Entrepreneurship will throw you down a flight of stairs every single day. And yet, I had run out of my own motivational units. And I remember thinking, like, okay, a heroic effort. I have to reach past the bucket of motivation, past the bucket of stubbornness, past the bucket of willpower, and into the bucket of the sacred, and go, okay, if that's what I have to bring out right now to get through the next 2 weeks, I will do it. And it was like a wash over me, Nikki. I got out of bed. I went and started meditating, had breakfast, was off to the races, right? And that Friday, again, when Arpita came in, she was such a beautiful mirror. I remember telling her this story and saying, because I didn't say this part to myself out loud, and saying to her, and I have a feeling that the real heroic effort actually begins the day I get out. And that I have found to be the case.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah. That the decisions I made in there to live from a soulful place, to live a soul-led life, to live the truths that I looked right in the eye and went, your truth, I will not back down from you. I will live with you on my shoulder. I will live in this way. I will be guided this way. I will follow this path. Mm-hmm. How quickly and easily when I came out, the world was like, oh, is that right? Chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. You know, like, oh, you sweet little innocent thing. Here, flight down some stairs, flight down some stairs. And numerous times since coming out, I have sat on my meditation mat with my hands in prayer and said, please find a heroic effort today. Because the pull back to civilized living, the pull back to unconsciousness, the pull back to pre-initiated living, the pull back to how I was living before, what I was thinking, how I was acting, how I was expressing myself, those fears and truths are right there still going, we're right here, bro. Anytime, right? Like the devil is still on my shoulder. And
Yeah.
I'm saying this to you all, not just to share my own story, but I imagine your listeners are living in a way that requires a moment-to-moment heroic effort. And so I
Yes, I
say
do.
to you,
Every day is a commitment.
every day,
Every single day we have to make the decision.
every day. And that was a huge piece for me. And I end all of my meditations saying, like, okay, heroic effort, let's go. And I start my day.
Somebody said to us when we were leading our Emanate retreat, if you know, but you don't do it, then you're not living an authentic life. If you don't know and you don't do it, then I guess you just don't know. Mm-hmm. But once you do know and you still don't do it, then you're not being authentic. And when he said that, it hit me like someone smacked me in the face, because I realized that authenticity is not the easy choice. Mm-mm. It's a choice that requires such a high level of responsibility. To choose every day to not be pulled back by the survival mind and the habit of who we thought we were. To choose every day to challenge what the mind tells us, or to challenge a system or a world that is not sculpted or shaped to honor authenticity or to nurture it. It is a heroic act, and it's a courageous way to be, but it is what's needed today. I think people are longing for it, longing to witness it. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that you are now in the reorganization part of your life. meaning everything in the 3D is being reorganized because who you are is completely shifted.
Yeah.
And it's good for everybody to hear that. You don't just come out of something like this, and it's like, it's like, okay, now you got to go put your money where your mouth is. If everything about who you are is now matured and evolved and shifted, then your 3D reality, anything connected to the old Traver, is probably like whoosh, destabilized. Have you seen that? Are you noticing
100%.
that?
Every aspect of my life, it felt like, went into chaos when I came out, from relationships ending to business challenges, a challenge with the book that I wrote beforehand. It just seemed like I was walking into brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. And my fantasy when I came out was that it would be easy and smooth and simple. And since I had reorganized, that the world would reorganize quickly around me. But what you're speaking to is everything that I had had relationship with in the past has had to go through a messy, frictionless period. Like no different than relationships, a new friendship or an old friendship, and someone goes to rehab and comes out and it's like, hey, now we have to decide how are we in relationship with each other. That has happened
Yes.
from my housing to my body to my business to literally every area of my life, except my dog still loves me and wants to sneak on the bed, but that's literally, Nicky, about it. It has
Yeah.
been, I have said in men's groups, like, I don't understand why my life is so difficult. And then literally said to the same group, although I did go get initiated and then come back into my uninitiated life and go, oh, okay, now it makes perfect sense why things are so difficult. And
Yes.
probably, I not, I knock on wood, maybe for some time, as you said, for months. Of like, okay, it's gonna take some time, and I'm continuously slowing myself down and continuously managing expectations of saying, like, let this play out. It's okay. It's reorganizing itself. Let this, and I'm not saying that most of it's like, that's a 2 a.m. thought when I've been up grinding in my head of like, what the fuck's going on? Why does this person say that? Why didn't that happen? And then going, okay, take a breath. This has to happen to get to the other side of it.
Yeah, and I think it's the piece that a lot of people are afraid of and also don't realize that the 3D external world is not separate from our internal world. They're intricately connected. So if you're going to have a significant shift in your internal state and sense of self, the next piece, in fact, like you said, the Herculean piece is to come out and actually have a 3D world that aligns with that. So you have to actually day by day make different choices,
Yeah.
have the filtering out process, be different, which is the hard part.
It's so hard.
Oh,
It's
it's
so
so
hard.
hard.
It's so hard.
I know, I get it. When you left,
And the,
when you left me the message and you were telling me about where you were, I was like, I get it. I totally get
right? And the popping of the fantasy has been absolute brutality. Like, oh, there's
it.
not a seven-figure check in my mailbox in the new house and all of these great relationships and everything's just swimming along smoothly. And wow, that's, but I thought about it and I manifested that. It just didn't come true.
Yet. Yet.
Yes. Yeah.
My experience is that once you come out the other side, your world flows easier.
Yeah. And I will
Um,
say to people, I'm seeing pieces that needed to pop and they've popped.
yeah.
And then there is ease after them.
Yes. Yes. It takes time though. Most people don't realize integration takes time, especially after 49 days,
Yeah.
you know.
It takes time.
Traver, thank you.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.
Really, just for me, I'm so grateful to have sat with you and to have heard this and for your courage.
Thank you.
I think we are in a time right now where more and more of us just want to feel the presence of such courage and authenticity. It it is moving. Oh, one question.
Sure.
Where are you now with your cousin that took his life?
I couldn't access him, Nicky. I tried in the room. I would talk to him and I couldn't get him. I couldn't reach him.
Can
And
you maybe understand a little bit more about why he would have done something like that?
I had an intellectual understanding going in. I dedicated like the foreword of my book, right? The dedication here says to Chris and Evie, someone else who also was close to me who took her life, for whom the darkness was too bright. And that's what I believe. There is a wisdom in it. There are gems in it. There are truths in it that are so big that if we don't go into it consciously, we will miss. And we
Yes.
will just see the darkness for the trials and tribulations. I could have walked out of that room and just said, that was 7 weeks of torture. I got nothing out of it. I never want to do it again. It was shit. It was hell. I can't believe I did it. It was just maniacal torture. And I don't think I would be well right now. But I'm walking out of it going, oh my God, that's what I was shown. Because I was willing to surrender to it. And so for him specifically, I don't want to speak poorly of him, but he was untrained in any of this language or any of these ideas. And so to him, as a standard American male, with addictions, with traumas, with things he hadn't worked through, the darkness must have been terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Yeah. And so, yeah, I have him in my heart.
I think when I hear you, and I see it time and time again with my work, is, being human is really tough. Waking up every day with this human mind is tough.
Yeah.
And if we don't have the context of being able to be in some kind of relationship with it where we are inquiring, where we are learning, where we are in a process of growth, it's like a torture.
Right?
And when I let myself really experience that, it allows me to have a deeper level of compassion to what I see, just so much of what's taking place in the world today. It is like a form of insanity. Most people would think that you went into the darkness and you would go insane, but you were facing the insanity that might actually allow you to be more sane.
For sure.
I
This
said,
is insane to me now.
yes, I said in a program, in my training that I lead, I can't even believe I'm going to say this publicly, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm like, you all think that the mental illness is if you go insane. Human being is a mental illness. Being trapped and stuck and led unconsciously by the human mind is like being mentally ill, and we don't even realize it.
Right.
Just looping and looping and looping and looping and looping without knowing that there is a door open. But we don't even know how to get out of that door. And so having the context to have some kind of relationship with the grappling is so important. And I guess it makes a deeper sense of purpose to what you've done, because now maybe you can help someone like your cousin have that context.
Yeah. I have been very blessed, Nicky, to have amazing teachers and to have them come into my life when things did fall apart, when darkness fully came and grabbed me. There were so many guides and so much information that was available to me all the time that suddenly seemed fascinating, that 6 months prior I wouldn't have looked at twice. And so I have endless compassion for how he lived and the tools he didn't have, the frames he didn't have, the context he didn't have, and the tools he did have, which unfortunately were drugs and alcohol, which I had too before the fall. I thought this is a great way to manage my life. This makes sense. It works. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Truly. Thank you.
It's been such a privilege and such an honor, and not only just for giving us your generosity to share with us what you experienced and learned, but that you did it at all, which is quite an extraordinary thing to do. And
Thank you.
I really wish you well in your reorganization. It does get easier after everything dies.
Yeah. So
Once
one
the
little,
forest has been completely burnt, new
yeah,
shoots start coming through.
yeah. There's just a couple more deaths that we have to navigate. Yeah.
Just a couple more, maybe a few months to go. But we love you, and
Thank you.
we're rooting for you, and we're here for you. And thank you for going first. There's so many phases right now where people need to go first,
Yeah.
and so we can then share what the experiences were. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
hope everybody who has listened today, I'm sure you would have gotten so much out of this. And if you want to follow Traver, find Traver, work with Traver, first tell us where everyone can find your book. We'll put a link underneath here, but share
Thank
here
you.
with everyone. How can they find you, Traver, and how can they find your book and your work?
You can find me on Instagram at Traver Boehm, TraverBoehm, or manuncivilized.com or traverboehm.com. And if you want to get 28 Days in Darkness, you can go to manuncivilized.com/28 days. It'll be on Amazon as soon as my publisher gets it on Amazon. And it is currently available Barnes & Noble. It's available pretty much everywhere. And it's a hell of a book, Nicky. I've just started getting feedback from it, and it's a hell of a book.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it. I think it just arrived at my house in
Yeah.
Austin. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Nick told me. So we're going to be diving into that, but thank you. So everybody, please do follow Traver, get in touch. All you men out there who are longing to be uncivilized, you know where to go now. Thank you. Thank you so
Truly,
much.
thank you for having me. I appreciate you.